Hey, what's up, everybody? I was going through YouTube earlier today, looking at some various Discord videos, and I noticed there aren't really any great server setup tutorials out there. There definitely are some tutorials, but a lot of them have messy overrides, kind of weird configurations, and it's really just not the best way to set it up to make it easier in the future. So I thought I'd give it a shot, try out a video here, suggest some really good bots that you can use for your server, and also easy ways to set it up to make it understandable for everyone and so that your perms don't get all sloppy. So with that, let's just get started with a new server. Discord has some templates here for a few various categories. They're really basic. Personally, I would just choose create my own, but you can always, start off with one of these and just grow from there. We'll go ahead and name this one YouTube tutorial, and you can upload a picture here. You can always do that later. It's not really too important. We don't need it for this server, so we'll just go create. All right, as you can see, we start off as the only member. There's a little checklist of stuff you can do. We got text channels, voice channels with general in each. Before touching the channels or anything else, the first thing I like to do is go straight into the roles section here. You can see it starts off with just at everyone. You can't delete this role, and it has a lot of basic permissions selected. Most of these are solid things that you should give to at everyone, meaning anyone in your server. But there's a few of them like mention at everyone, which means it pings at every single person in the server. That really I don't think should be a default selection. So what I like to do is I just like to clear all permissions and start fresh. Because also when you create a new role, it defaults to adding the basic permissions that at everyone has to that new role. I like to go ahead and create a new role with member. This is something that we'll use a bot to auto apply to anyone that joins the server. So we'll do display role separately. That means that on the member list, their role will be displayed separately from just the online category that you saw earlier. And I would not recommend allowing anyone to @mention it, which means that they can ping every single person with that role, regardless of whether or not they have an @mention at everyone permission. We'll go ahead and do some basic perms. All of these are more your mod/admin stuff, so I would just skip that. Create invite, change nickname. Definitely want them reading channels, send messages. TTS is kind of a feature I've never really liked too much. It stands for text to speech. And basically when you do /TTS and then your message, it reads the message out loud to everyone that is currently on that channel. I typically try to not grant it, but it's not a dangerous permission to grant per se. Stuff like, we definitely want read message history. Stuff like embed leaks, attach files, external emojis, and add reactions. That kind of varies to server to server. For the case of this, I'm going to go ahead and grant those permissions. For more public servers that you're experiencing a lot of members, I would probably recommend turning off attached files and external emojis at least, just so that way they can't send any sort of inappropriate content via that. There's also a setting that we'll go to later on that can help to auto-moderate against that. Voice permissions, we want them to connect, speak, use voice activity. Video is another permission like that. For the case of the video, we'll do it on a smaller server, so we'll go ahead and check that. That's something where they can stream both their screen and also their camera face, so that like their face, into a voice channel in your server. So those are permissions I'll typically lock behind a certain role. Like say once you send 100 messages in the server or you're somewhat active, then you'll be able to do it. But for the sake of this, we'll go ahead and grant that. Always remember to save changes, and then we'll have a few more roles that we want to set up. Our next role is going to be the moderator role. This is something that we're going to give to server members that have like more content moderation type permissions. I like to give them a cool little color, maybe a red like that. Definitely want it displayed separately, and this is the only one that I would maybe consider allowing anyone to @mention. Basically, if you want people to like be able to ping every single moderator online just in a moment in case there's some sort of rule break or something that needs immediate attention. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to check it, but you easily could, and it just depends on how you want your server set up. Personally, I would rather just have them ping anyone that they see on the member list individually, over anyone with the role because that'll ping offline members as well. Administrator and stuff like the manage servers type stuff, I would still recommend not granting. That's more of an admin type permission, but view audit log for sure, kick members, ban members, create invite. Actually, we don't need to check any of like the create invite or change nickname stuff because if they have the member role, that's already selected. So you don't need to select it again. You only need to grant additional permissions because it doesn't default to the highest role. It defaults to any permission that's checked, meaning if it's checked here, it doesn't need to be checked here and they'll still have the permission. Manage nicknames in case someone has an inappropriate nickname. Manage emojis is more of an admin type thing. That's more your server management. But I still like to give that to mods. It's kind of a fun one that they can mess around with for sure. Just kind of, add in different emojis for the server, make it look cooler, things like that. Manage messages. You definitely want to grant them any sort of permissions that you wouldn't have granted, like embed links. In this case, we did grant it earlier, but if you chose not to, I would recommend granting it again. And just the mute, deafen, move members, and we'll go ahead and give them priority speaker. That's kind of a weirder permission. I'm not as fond of it, to be honest, but it's a fine one. So we'll go ahead and save changes, and then we'll move that above member. That way, you can only like moderate, say kick or ban, members that have roles below yours. So that way, if we had member above moderator, moderators wouldn't be able to do anything. So we want to make sure that we have our role hierarchy set up correctly. Next role we're going to add is the admin role right here. And for this role, super simple. You can either have it display or not display. A benefit to displaying it is it'll actually hide this little crown next to your name here. If you have a role with admin permissions hoisted separately, then your server owner crown will go away, as long as at least one person has that role. But if you want to keep it, I would recommend not hoisting the admin role. For the sake of this, I'm going to have it hoisted, but that's definitely something that you can figure out for your own server. We'll go ahead and give them a little purplish color there. And just what's really great about this is you only need to select administrator. That'll automatically grant everything else on this list. So then you just boom, and you're done. Two more roles we're going to want to add for the basic configuration here is bot. I like to move bot to below the highest role with admin permissions because I'll typically give bots admin as well. You don't need that displayed separately. It's not too important. And then I like to give them kind of a more grayscale color to show that they're a bot, so maybe like this light gray here. And then our final role is going to be the muted role for any server members that are kind of acting up a little bit, spamming in channels. I like to move that role right below any of your staff roles, so we'll make it between member and moderator here. And you don't need to grant any permissions. You don't need to set any color for that. You just click Save Changes. All right, next up, we're going to go through here, set it to, and then we're going to go into Enable Community. This is something that you can totally not do. It's perfectly fine to skip. I personally love the community features since it gives you announcement channels, all sorts of server insights. You get a bunch of updates on getting on public discovery, partner program, things like that. And also a lot of the stuff that they require here is really things that you should have on your server by default. So verified email, scan media content, especially if you have the attached files permission available to everyone. You're going to need some channels for that. We'll just create one for me and we can modify those later on. We'll be getting a channel shortly after this. And then finishing touches, these are definitely things that I would recommend. You don't want a bunch of spam for big servers, and then just accept the terms, finish setup, boom. And now we've got all of these different features here, like a welcome screen. I won't be setting one up in this video, but you can do it to highlight cool channels and things like that people can check out. Like if there's a rule channel that you want or directing them to the chat, it looks like this, as you can see with the lovely Wumpus Land. You can enable discovery once you meet the requirements, and you can apply for Discord Partner, which gets you super cool perks like the custom URL, banner, and invite splash, and also free nitro for the server owner. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and set up our template, our channels here. As you can see, it created these two channels. You can also set it to a current text channel that's available. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these channels, the default ones that they made. And we'll go ahead and start by making a category. This is really great to help organize your server, just kind of make it look a lot better, cleaner. And we're going to go ahead and make an information or important category, just like that. And then a super easy way, this is probably one of the biggest flaws I saw in a lot of the videos, is they don't use the category permissions. What's super great about this is you can literally set, if you have a certain permission for for every channel and category, like an important where you have announcements, rules, information like that, and you don't want anyone to send messages, you just go to @everyone, can't send messages, boom. I also like to typically disable the add reactions because I kind of like to select the reactions that are added to announcements, especially if you have use external emojis available to everyone. So just like that, any new channel that we create in the important category is going to have those permissions by default. So we'll go ahead and move rules in there, sync permissions. And now if we look at that, @everyone, permission synced, @everyone cannot send messages and add reactions. Now, of course, we want our admins to be able to do that, but you don't even need to set up a permission for that because by default, with the admin permission, here, all admins can have full access, so they'll still be able to send messages even with those turned off. Next up, we're going to create an announcement channel, and we're going to call it announcements. What's super sweet about announcement channels is that servers can actually follow the channels, and whenever you publish an announcement, it'll show up in their server too. So that way, if they want to spread word of your server, things like that, it's a super great way, just like that. So we'll go ahead and create a channel. We'll make rules be above that. There's our announcements, and since we're going for a very basic server, we're just going to keep it at those two channels for now. Depending on what your server's for, you can see there's definitely a lot more channels here, like about, rules, announcements, giveaways, updates, game updates. But since this is just going to be a simple server, we'll keep it at just rules and announcements. Next up, we're going to go ahead and create a general category. You can really call these whatever you want. This is just going to be our public space, chatter, things like that. Create. We'll make a general chat, or we can just call it chat. Actually, before we do that, we'll go ahead and set up these permissions here. And this is where the muted role comes in handy. We want to leave these default permissions to completely default for @everyone. But when you go into the muted role, we want to deny that they can't send messages, they can't add reactions, and they can't speak. So that way they're able to view everything, they can still look at the server, but they're unable to interact with it until they are no longer muted. And you don't need to add any other permissions like mod, admin, bot, anything like that. They'll still have all of the default stuff. So we'll go ahead and create a chat channel here, just like that. And then we'll make a off topic, just kind of a miscellaneous channel. We'll make a bot commands, just like that. And then we'll make a voice channel here. What's super cool with voice channels is that you're actually able to, you don't have to go by the specific characters in all lowercase, so we can call this hangout room or like general VC, things like that. And we can just create it like that. And then you can also make another one, and we'll call this one music. All right, so as you can see, there's a slight flaw in how the roles are set up with the @everyone not being shown. You can see that the voice channels are locked. Really easy way to fix that is just set the @everyone to connect, and that'll just get rid of that lock there. But if you want the lock there just to look cooler, you don't need to change anything, and it's done. All right. Now for music, we don't want people to be able to talk in the music because it's meant to just be the bots, doing their thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to permissions, and then @everyone cannot speak, and that's it. Well, once they can't speak, that also means that they can't use video, they can't use voice activity. And since bots have the admin permission, that means that no matter what, even though this says no, they can still speak. So you don't need to add unnecessary overrides to the channel. And if you want, say, a certain member to be able to speak, like you're doing a karaoke, you can go here, add a member, and then modify their permissions. This will override all role overrides, meaning that any member permission here will override that X there. All right, now what we're going to do is create a staff category. Sometimes you can come up with fun names for things like that, and then you want to set that to moderator. You can read admin and bot, you don't need to check because they can already read it. Like in this server, I think I have it set to staff squad. You can really be creative with what your channels are respective to your server, but again, we're just going for a nice basic default theme here. We'll go ahead and make a staff announcements channel. Something that I've seen in a few servers is they actually set this to an announcement channel because, you know, staff announcements. Really, I would not recommend this due to the fact that that would mean that staff can follow it to have it shown in their own server, which means that they're able to display your announcements, which are made specifically for your mods in their own server. Really, announcement channels should only be for things that you want published to everyone, like you're willing to have it shown to anyone that wants to see it. So for this, I would not set it even though it's staff announcements. And as you can see, it automatically has that little lock there because our permissions are synced with the role here, and moderator can read messages, everyone can't. Now for this one in particular, we are going to want to set it so that mods cannot. Sorry about that, some little glitch happened here. Basically, we're going to disable send messages because this is a channel for admins to make messages for the mods. We do not need moderators to send stuff here, so we're going to go ahead and tick that and just press save changes, exit. For the rest of these channels, we can just go ahead and create new ones. We don't need to set any private channel permissions as it'll default to the staff category. We'll make a staff chat. Staff commands for when they want to do, you know, like mutes, kicks, stuff like that, so it's not on public channels. We'll go ahead and make a server logs for like server events, and also a mod logs for moderator actions. Some servers like to set this as public for transparency. I've done it both ways in my servers. For this one, we'll go ahead and set it private as that's probably the most common, but you can easily set anything you want as public. Again, this is just kind of a base template. And all of these permissions are already set up with the little lock here because it's only mods and admins have access, so that's perfect. All right, next up, what we're going to want to do is add some bots to the server. So we'll go ahead and go onto here, just like that. Click on bot. One that I definitely recommend adding is CarlBot. This is a super awesome all-in-one type bot. We'll go ahead and add it to YouTube tutorial, just like that. Continue. And here's a little thing I would like to note. When you go to add a bot, it'll have all of these permissions that you can select. And I would suggest definitely deselecting all of them because you're already going to be giving every single bot admin permissions, which will cover everything it's asking, so it'll still work just fine. And whenever you have permissions selected, it'll create a new role for the bot that can't be deleted or assigned. So it's just kind of stuck there in your role menu until you delete the bot. And it's really just a pain, to be honest. You definitely should go for deselecting all of those. And then you can just assign it yourself. If you want a special role for your bot, you can still do that, but it makes it so you can actually manage the roles without having to kick it and re-add it. So we'll go ahead and authorize that. Beep, boop, boop, beep. Confirm this. Select the motorcycles just like that. I think that, there we go. And we are good to go. So as you can see here, if we head on into our server settings, sorry, it looks like it's lagging a little bit. Server settings, there we go. We'll go into members, and CarlBot is now up here. You can see it's got its verified bot tab. Definitely check bots for that verified bot part. That's an easy way to tell which bots are legit, which ones are scams. That means it's been vetted by Discord and it's approved bot. The developer's ID have been verified, things like that. And we can just go ahead and give that the bot role. So now we're going to head to the dashboard, just set a few things up. You got your prefixes here. I just like to keep it to that one. we'll go ahead and set up. There's a ton of different things. This isn't really a video showing off Carl's setup here, but we'll just go ahead and do some quick logging. Log channel is going to be our server logs. You can select stuff here. Again, we're not really going to be showcasing that a ton. And then also moderation logs. We'll set our mod log to mod logs just like that. And just easy. Last thing we're going to want to do is the auto role right here. So we'll go ahead and add member, since we want whenever they join the server, they're going to get that. And I also like to set up the sticky roles so that people can't leave the server once they get muted and just rejoin to not have the mute. So that's pretty much going to be everything for our Carl dashboard. The bot's pretty much set up. You can see it shows as online. Bots don't really need a hoist. They're not anything special to show off to your members. So you can just go ahead and set that up. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is add a Groovy. There's a ton of different music bots out there, so you really can do whatever you want there. I personally like Groovy. I think it's a great way for community servers. Rhythm definitely has some more key features that are for your server owners and admins, so you can moderate it. Groovy's a lot more open-based, but it's really whatever you want to do. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and add Groovy. So redirect is here. We'll select a server to YouTube tutorial, just like that. Continue. Deselect the permissions again, and authorize. Confirm one more time. We are not a robot. And select the buses. Oh, I hate this one. We're going to refresh. Sweet. There we go. Nothing that we really need to set up in the dashboard there. Groovy has now joined. We can see it in our server logs. We can go ahead and head into the members, just like that, and roll Groovy, the bot role. Note that Carl did not auto-assign the role because it was a bot that joined. It only works for new members. Like for example, if I'm go ahead and join on my alt real quick, you'll be able to see that. Let's head over here. We'll create an invite. Don't even try that. Invite's going to be invalid by the time this video goes up, but I guess you can see it for now. We'll go ahead and join. And as you can see, it doesn't have access to these channels, but if we go to off topic or chat, once we accept invite, it'll automatically be a rolled member and have access to all of these channels. Of course, without posting permissions in here, but it can still talk in the other ones. And we can see in server logs that it joined and role added. All right, so next up, what we're going to do is, that's really a solid start to a server. One last step that y'all definitely have to take is add my bot right now. We got www.cats.gg, just like that. I definitely add it 100%. Super sick bot. You're going to love it. Invite it to your server. We'll go ahead and edit our scopes just to 0 for our example here, but you should keep those permissions for sure. One last check here, little tick. Yeah, the captchas. All right, and there we go. Our server is pretty much all set. We got solid basic channels here. We got really clean permissions and overrides. Super easy to add additional roles, different permissions. We got some nice bots on here. We'll go ahead and give Cats the bot role as well. And that's pretty much everything that we need. Last thing that we're going to do is go ahead and make this server a template. We'll call this the example server, I guess. I might change that later. And template description, start for creating your own server. Just like that, we'll generate template. I'll go ahead and link this in the description if you want to check it out. You will need to re-add the bots and set that up, but all of these channels, all the roles, all the permissions, all of that will be set up for you. just like that. And super duper easy to add on to. You just add more channels. Remember what you learned here with how to set up the roles. You don't need all the messy overrides, things like that. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or need some further help, definitely let me know in the comments, or you can always shoot me a DM. Check out my bot in the server, and have a good day. Peace out.